Richard, congrats on Pinocchio Unstrung. I wanted to ask you about playing Geppetto because that's a role everybody knows. How is it really putting your own stamp on this character that's been so celebrated and portrayed not just in film, but all these different mediums for over 100 years now?
Yeah. That's a very unique stamp, isn't it? So he's not quite the Geppetto from from the Disney. That was what really got me wanting to do it. I read the script and was sort of surprised. Initially, I thought, oh, it's just going to be a crazy puppet film, and it turned out it had a lot of soul and heart, and particularly with Geppetto's relationship with Cameron and Cameron's relationship with his friends, and it was, the opportunity to play a lovely, caring grandpa who has a slightly twisted motivation for creating Pinocchio. But yeah, that was fun. It was fun to take the role on. I mean, it's iconic character in literature and film. So yeah, I was happy to do it, and then add my little psycho twist to him.
You do it great. It's a real fun twist on the character. And I was curious about filming with the actual Pinocchio. Were there ever any dolls or stand-ins, or did you have nothing to
Yeah,
interact with
yeah.
filming?
Yeah, no, we had to. I mean, they had the actual, animatronic. Is that the word? Puppet there the whole time. There was a few. There was a stunt one that we had to, that was less expensive that could get thrown downstairs and assorted other stuff. But his stunt double. But the actual puppet was there, and it was, a lot of times it was, by itself. With, sometimes they had to have some help here, there with puppeteers. Um, the voice, somebody had to be off camera voicing it. So we were actually, I think, almost always working with Pinocchio himself. And it was fun. It was fun. I've done a fair bit of that kind of work in different films over the years, whereas the young guys hadn't. So, they were amazing. Like Cameron had to do a lot of work with Pinocchio, and he handled it so well. And when I saw it, I'm really impressed at how great he was with Pinocchio. 'Cause it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do for your first film.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Cameron Bell, the young actor that plays your grandson in the film. What impressed you the most of just about his performance? Because he's very put together, and it really stood out as a one to watch.
Yeah, I think it was he just came very prepared, very professional, very focused, always open to learn and get better, if he felt he could do better, or if he took notes very well from the director. It's just everything you'd want in an actor, not just a young actor, any actor. And just easygoing. It was a long, hard shoot. These independent horror films or any film, we have to make them in record time. Never enough time, never enough money. Um, and he was, a super trooper the whole time, and great performance. Lights again.
I I was curious. You mentioned the great puppets that you had to work off of. As an actor, having that tactile puppet there to act off of, how much does that help you as an actor versus something that's completely CGI? Because we see
Yeah, I
these
mean,
other films that
I
are
know
crazy
you're
like
just
that.
going against like nothing whatsoever, right? No, it's much better having something there. I mean, I think especially for Cameron and for those guys, definitely, because obviously they have no experience. I think, as far as I know, working against nothing. So, and but yeah, again, I've done the thing of acting to nothing, but it's actually a 6 foot creature trying to eat you. So, but I would say definitely it's a lot. There you go. This is, sorry about that.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, I have no idea. Anyway, that's the answer to the question. And we know who knows what's going on with the lights. But yeah.
This twisted version of Pinocchio is particularly fun because even though he's murdering people, there's still this
Yeah.
innocent quality to him. What did you like most about that? That it still retained that like core
Yeah, it's
conceit of
important, right?
Pinocchio that he
Yeah.
wants to be a real boy. There's an innocent core to him
Yeah.
despite all the
I mean,
sick stuff.
it's really sad, in many ways. The whole Pinocchio story is, really sad. There's a lot of soul to the actual original Pinocchio. And obviously, we've taken it in a completely different direction. But I think one of the things they've done so well is keep a portion of that real sadness and innocence that the Pinocchio is all about in this film. And yeah, that's what appealed to me a lot when I read it. Is again, before I said yes to it, one of the reasons I did was because they'd really captured that. It was obvious that Reese and Scott had really thought this through. They're amazing filmmakers, the two of them. I'm really impressed with them, and I'm really grateful that I did this and got to meet them and work with them because, they've got something special.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Reese because it's been interesting seeing him just improve so much over the past couple of years because he was doing these like real no budget horror movies and then now he has obviously these aren't high budget affairs but he has more of an actual budget. He can have much better props and he's really stepping up with it. So how was it just seeing him continue to grow as a filmmaker because I was really impressed by this film.
I mean, it wasn't, it was funny again when I got sent the script from my agent. He's like, "Oh, it's the Winnie the Pooh guys." I was like, "Oh, I heard about that film. I hadn't seen it." And, I thought, "Oh, it's just, do they really know what they're doing?" And I saw he'd made loads of films prior to that, all of them for no money. I mean, literally 1,000 quid or, dollars or whatever it was, and when I met them and realized what had happened, I mean, he taught himself. He made those films for no money, but somebody distributed them. He got the money back so he could make another one, another one, another one. And then, of course, Winnie the Pooh took off and they made, decent money. But they put it all back into making more films. They could have bought a flat or done something else. And they didn't. They just put every penny back in. And um, as a director, he just learned how to be improve and learn everything about filmmaking over many years, and now it's paying off. I think, him and Scott, they talk about is film. All they do is on their days off is go to films and discuss their films and what the next script's going to be and how they're going to create it, and that dedication and that drive is really impressive, and it's why they've achieved what they've achieved. So yeah, he's a great director, and he's going to only get better and better and better, is what I
Yeah,
think.
I'm excited to see what he does going forward. And speaking of great directors you've worked with, Christopher Nolan has the Odyssey coming out. So I want to ask you, when you worked with him on Batman Begins, what really stood out about him? Because could you tell that he was going to be something special behind the camera, or how was that atmosphere?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think Batman Begins was his first big budget, like when I say, super, super big budget movie. And he's about my age, so he's probably mid 30s or so at the time, maybe a bit younger. Um, And I remember being struck by just how calm and collected he was. He's got this massive film that he's in charge of. There's no guarantee that it was going to be what it was, the huge hit and reshape the whole Cape Crusader world and comic book universe and the way we do them. But it's just how calm he was and how he knew what he wanted. And if you gave him what he wanted as an actor, he was happy, moved on. It was really no surprise that he's now, well, I mean, he's made some masterpieces after masterpiece. I mean, it's not even, there was no question when I saw him that first day.
That's incredible. My last question for you: you're famously the Night King in Game of Thrones, and then schedule issues you weren't able to return after two of the seasons. How was it just kind of like starting off this run for this iconic character, and then watching the end, from afar? Because that's a unique experience we don't see too often.
No, I was disappointed we couldn't make it work, but at the same time, many ways, looking back, I'm really grateful. It was great to be a part of it, and really incredibly honored to have played the character when I did, and had, my favorite scene, and I'm Raising the Dead, Hard Home. Um, but the reality is, there's so many films I was able to do afterwards because it would have taken up a lot of scheduling. And to watch it from afar, was not difficult. I enjoyed it as a fan and wondered where it was going, and and was unlike many. I thought they did an incredible job, particularly having um, uh, him killed by a little girl. Arya was always my favorite character, and I thought that was a stroke of genius.